And away we go. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now and the National Hockey Now YouTube channel. So we're doing these little live streams, and everybody comes piling in 5 or 10 minutes late. I feel like maybe we should sit here and wait, but I'm just not that considerate. So on the docket today, 5-day rookie camp, and I did some Edmonton TV and radio this morning. They wanted to know about two players, Owen Pickering and Tristan Jarry. Obviously, Jarry wasn't at rookie camp, but where the Penguins go from here. So maybe we should talk a little bit about that. Obviously, I laid out some RFAs that are still on the market, two of which I really think fit the Penguins' current bend in the river. We'll get into that. I'm not going to give it all the way up top. Well, that would just be ruining the teaser, wouldn't it? We're also going to get into the remaining UFAs on the market. There's one I think is waiting for his team to make a final decision, but I think the Penguins should, in fact, go after. As a side note, talking with the Edmonton media people this morning on my little guest appearances, there's a little part of me, and please, I have tap danced around this for about a week now. I do have some information on the Crosby contract situation or negotiations that I don't expect to see a contract in the next couple of days. Let's put it that way. I do expect to see I think we all expect to see a contract, but it's not going to happen today or tomorrow. So with that in mind, I am almost maybe wondering if Sidney Crosby is maybe just slow walking this, methodical, taking his time, no urgency. That is maybe the one thing I can confirm with some confidence, is that there isn't urgency to get it done. I wonder how much of the current team is factoring in to the negotiations. Honestly, I know in Sidney Crosby's shoes what I would say, and I would be like, listen, I want to play on a competitive team. You do what you have to do for the future. I need a competitive team. I wonder if there's any holding Dubas's feet to the fire on that. And Kyle Dubas, I know we're going on a tangent already, but Dubas on his July 1st press conference referenced something like that when he said the room is too good to not provide them with NHL talent. So I wonder if that's factoring in to the negotiations. Do me a favor. You can like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter or X. And keep those comments coming. I did just get text I have to read here. Okay. So we're going to get into all those things, the free agents, the RFAs, the rookie camp. There was one guy, and maybe we should start with the rookie camp, right? Let me pull him up. Actually, I guess there were two guys. Technically, there were two guys. But let me find my story. Where is it? There it is. There's the picture I want to show you anyway. It was behind the PHN Plus paywall. I hope you'll all join this band of hockey rebels because I like to think that I'm providing a level of analysis and insights and traveling around to these little tournaments that you're not getting in a whole lot of places. At least not all in one place where, you do the pro and the amateur. So there was one guy who definitely should be credited. There we go. Now I'm sharing it. On the right, Russian goalie Sergei Murashov. We'll find out eventually. He's going to come to Pittsburgh eventually. Owen Pickering with the big Michelle Briere trophy, a big silver cup that the guys win for the rookie camp championship. And he's like, that was the first time I'd ever met him. I looked at his stats on Elite Prospects. He had great stats, but he was disgusting. That's a good thing in hockey circles. Murashov was brilliant. I mean, he faced some high danger chances, some breakaways, some good one-timers, and some pokes through traffic. He stopped just about everything. It was silly how good he is. I don't know if he's really 6'2", because when we were standing there talking to him, when he kind of just walked up behind me, Taylor Haas and I were the first ones to get to the interview area when we were supposed to talk to him on, I think it was Monday. And I turn around and he's just like standing there looking at me like, oh, hey, how you doing? I don't think he was taller than I am, which probably puts him, 6 and change. 6'2" might be stretching it, but then again, who knows? Maybe I had high heels on or something. Regardless of how tall he is, he's a little rough on the fundamentals. I was watching some of the practice drills. His angles were a tad off. That's easy to correct. That's a couple months in North American hockey, learning where the pucks are going to come from, the smaller rink, the boards and everything. But how quickly he was able to bat a puck aside and then be square to the puck. Like, there were a couple drills, and I don't know who was shooting on him. Some of the minor league guys were shooting on him, and he would block her aside a hard shot. He actually catches with the wrong hand. He catches with his right hand. And so he would, with his left hand, block her aside and be square before the next guy could even catch the rebound. And he was kind of doing that intentionally, just directing pucks around. And I think you really saw a bit of the Russian schooling coming out there. I am trying desperately to acquire him in my fantasy hockey league, my dynasty league, which goes for years and years and years. I'm trying to acquire him. That's how impressed I was, and I think everybody else was as well. The other guy you saw there in the picture was Tristan Brose. I really do think you're going to see him in the NHL this season. Probably a fourth line winger. Maybe, just maybe he has a bit more offense, and he's a third line guy. Can chip in some offense. Naturally, he's a left-handed center, but his skating, where it was compared to where it is, his confidence, his aggression in the game, it's Tom Kostopoulos, who's the Penguins director of player personnel, kind of alluded to that yesterday, in fact, saying, well, he's had some up and downs. You knew he always had the skill, but... And I was talking with somebody else in the Penguins organization yesterday, too, and they said the same thing. We were talking about Brose, and they said, yeah, every time we talk to a hockey ops person, they always say, yes, but. Well, there's no more buts about Tristan Brose. Real deal there. Going to be an NHL player, like a lot of what he brings. He was genuinely, his team lost both of the games in the round-robin tournament. I kid you not. He was genuinely ticked off. And just with all the microphones around, he looked at me and said, yeah, I'm pissed off. And he meant it. It was with a little bit of a little stank on it. I liked it. I liked the kid a lot as a hockey player. I mean, you're going to see him. The other guys I know you want to talk about, none of the questions have to do with the prospects, but I'm going there anyway. And you can fast forward this if you watch it later. The other prospects I know everyone is watching, probably in order. Braden Yeager still has this bad habit of coasting at the top of the offensive zone. I'm not quite sure why. He's being so defensively responsible that he's actually being irresponsible offensively and not really providing the necessary support and pressure that a centerman should provide. So there's a little bit of a hitch in his giddy up there. He skates at the NHL level. He's got a good shot. He's clearly smart, got some hockey IQ, but for some reason there's a mental thing going on right now where he's trying to show that he's good defensively, and he's going too far. If he can correct that for training camp, he's got a shot to make the team. The other guy would be Owen Pickering, 2022 first-round pick. Pickering, when he was drafted, was like 6'2", 6'3", 170, 175 pounds at most. Willowy. Shows up this week. He's 6'5". Actually, he corrected me. He's 6'4" 3/4. 200 pounds. Take a look at his face in some of the pictures from PHN and the videos here on this channel. Compare it to just a year ago, 2 years ago. He's getting his man body. There's no other way to put it. And he's still growing too. That's the amazing. I mean, good Lord. He's going to be Chara before he's done. On the hockey side, there's still a ways to go. I'd like to see his skating smooth out, be streamlined a little bit. He still has to make better decisions with the puck on the offensive side. I still I've seen him make the same play a couple of times now, both a year ago in Wilkes-Barre and on the scrimmages on Wednesday, where he carries the puck through center ice, and he gets a little bit of momentum ahead of steam. And then when faced with 3 or 4 defenders, he tries to weave through them. It's like, kid, you're not Sid. Dump it in. You're the defenseman. Just dump it in. Let the wingers go get it or change up and be done with it. He turned it over yesterday, and a chance came right back against him. So there's still some growth and maturity that needs to occur in his game. I don't expect to see him at the NHL level in 24-25. Maybe, listen, you never know when that light bulb goes on. And because he was a first-round pick, when that light bulb does go ding, he gets almost a free pass to the NHL. So, maybe it clicks by midseason with some hard work down at Wilkes-Barre. I don't know, but let's bank on a good year. The other guy was the guy you saw in the picture talking to Tristan Brose, was Tanner Howe. He's going to have a real shot to make the team in training camp. If for no other reason, because what he brings to the table, the team is in short supply of. He scored 2 goals in the scrimmage yesterday. No big deal, right? The way he scored the goals and where he scored the goals are what were important. Scrums in front of the net, deflections, pokes, dragging guys there, making them fight for space. He took it easy on the guys yesterday. He wasn't his full agitator self. I can truly see him squeezing somebody out for an NHL spot in the fall. Honest to goodness. If there's one pick in the last couple of years, it would be him. Second-round pick, 46th overall. And he played in Regina. Yeah, Harrison Brunick, it was Kamloops. He's Regina. Braden Yeager is Moose Jaw. Who else am I? Owen Pickering. The other WHL player is Swift Current. It's like a little Penguins farm system up there all of a sudden, but they're playing really good and NHL-style hockey. So that's my wrap-up, my 15-minute wrap-up of the rookie camp. I don't know where time goes. Okay, let's go roll through the questions. Brian. Hi, Dan. Hi, Brian. Okay, thanks for the presence here. I appreciate you appreciating it. Have a bit of an odd question, says TV. I want to know how you feel about Disco Dan Bileson being the head coach of Seattle. I don't care. I mean, honest to God, no kidding. Dan was good to me. I wasn't a Penguins. I didn't cover the Penguins back then, but I was on the national scene, and we had him on the show, and he stopped by our show at the draft and talked for a while. I have no problems with him. If Ron Francis, the GM there in Seattle, says he's the best person for the job, then he's the best person for the job. What do I, life's too short to hold any grudges of somebody who might have snubbed me or wasn't fun to talk to or anything like that. Even if Bilesma were a jerk to me, it wouldn't change my opinion. Wake up plan. I don't see a path to this team being competitive, regardless of how well or poorly Dubas performs. Does anyone see this team realistically being a competitor? We're not just a few pieces away. Well, I guess it depends on your definition, Wake Up, of competitive. Will the Penguins stink this year? Unlikely. Now, if Sidney Crosby gets hurt, yeah, they're going to stink. But if Crosby is relatively healthy, there is no reason to think that on any given night the Penguins can't win a game. Are they going to make the playoffs? I don't think so. I think Washington has improved markedly. I think Philadelphia, surprisingly, is going to be better. That rebuild is textbook. I mean, it actually might be rewriting the textbook on how good Philadelphia is. Their problem is in net, but everyone's going to be a year older. Jamie Drysdale there on defense is a stud. I think people forget how good Drysdale is. He's a true number one guy, and he's back on the ice. He's healthy, and Farabee and Konechny and all of these guys they've got a deep team. It's going to be good. They're going to be in the same tank as the Penguins, like a 9-10 seed fighting for that 7-8 spot. And that's where I don't see the Penguins as a 9 or 10. New Jersey has their goalie finally, Dougie Hamilton, healthy. If Jack Hughes is healthy, New Jersey is really good, and the Rangers haven't taken a step back. Carolina maybe a little bit, losing Brady Shea and Brett Pesce, but they're still pretty good. The Islanders and the Penguins are the teams that really have treaded water while everyone else has gone up. I see the Penguins probably 11 or 12 in the conference, but they're going to be there. They're going to be there the whole season. And the funny thing is, Tristan Jarry, if he can maintain his first half performance or his three-quarter performance, maybe the Penguins do have a shot at the playoffs, but it will be dependent upon their top six, surely not the bottom six. I think their bottom six is not good enough. Too many of the same players and no talent on the third line. I don't like that Beauvillier, Hayes, and Puustinen line whatsoever. I think that is a garbage line that Mike Sullivan might be forced to trot out. I think that line could be the like the Coyote with his Acme plunger trying to blow something up. That third line could be the death of the Penguins this season. I also think the defense could. I mean, there's nobody to take Ryan Graves' spot right now. So you're penciling Ryan Graves into the top four just to make it all work. Yeah, so I don't think I think the Penguins will be competitive because of Crosby, but they're not going to be a playoff team. Well, that was like a 3-minute answer. Sorry, Wake Up. Would like to know your take on Perfetti and if the Jets could move him. Par 3. You got to read Pittsburgh Hockey Now, man. Or gal or Zay. Here's what I did this morning. Let me come back to you here. Share screen. Penguins. RFAs. You see that? Come on. Here, we'll scroll down. Seth Jarvis, not a chance. I thought there might be a chance, but as I did the math, the research, and just put it to logic, no chance whatsoever. However, Cole Perfetti. Now, here's the problem the Penguins would have. They probably can't sign Perfetti as an RFA offer sheet and steal him from Winnipeg, because the maximum the Penguins can offer is $2.2 million per season. And the reason for that is if they offer $1 more, then 2.29 and change. They offer $1 more, they have to. They actually can't, because they don't have a second round pick that is their own next season. So they'd have to try to get Perfetti at 2.2, and I don't think Perfetti would go for it, quite frankly. So while I endorse the principle and I endorse the player, acquiring the player, it won't work with an offer sheet. Give it a 2% chance. Perfetti would have to want to come to the Penguins and sign that 2.29 deal, and Winnipeg would have to want to let him go because, let's say the Penguins did have a second round pick. I still might advocate going after Perfetti, and the Penguins then could offer like 3.5, which Winnipeg might say, to hell with that. No, we're out. That would make sense, but since they can't, they're a little bit stuck. By the way, is the sound okay? I changed all of the cables, but there's still one little piece that is unchanged, and I'm worried that was the actual problem with the sound. By the way, that was not a shower beer or anything like that. That was, wait, I have to, see, just so you know, it wasn't beer. That comes immediately following the show. See here. It's going well, BJ. Thoughts on how Dubas uses our last few million in cap space? I bet it's a UFA bounce back type on a 1-year deal or taking another contract like Hayes for a pick. The latter is certainly a possibility. There are still plenty of guys out there for whom teams would like to divest themselves. I suppose if Montreal has not yet traded Josh Anderson, that's not going to happen. Montreal would have no more need for cap space at this point in the offseason. So that would have been my go-to guy, would have been Josh Anderson. So since that's not going to happen, let's look at free agents. Dun, dun, dun. I wish I had some bumper music or something. I'm just going to pull up the Puckpedia list here because this was on the docket today too. So, players, Puckpedia. Actually, I wonder if I can do this. Nope. That's not so good. Okay, we'll go back to this. Actually, I'm experimenting. Bear with me. Okay, there we are. Can you even see that? Let's try this again. That's what I wanted to show. Okay, that's the way I want to do it. All right. So Pavelski basically retired. If he comes back, it's going to be an emotional 1-year deal with Dallas. Daniel Sprong clearly wants to be paid for scoring 25 or actually 18 goals. No one's going to pay him because he's a very one-dimensional player. James Van Riemsdyk at 35. You're not going to go all out for a 38-point guy who's kind of soft. The guy that I think the Penguins should be on, here he is, Tyler Johnson. His $5 million a year contract has expired. That was the one he signed in Tampa Bay that they then couldn't afford. He was a remarkable leader for a dismantled Chicago Blackhawks team. Still put up 31 points in 67 games, 17 goals. He can play in the middle. He can play your right wing. Heck, I think I've seen him play left wing too. He just has all of the skills, and he's not washed up. At 33, he's got some tread left. I think he's probably worth a couple, like $2.5 million, give or take a little bit on either side of that. And I think he would make the Penguins better. Not Anthony Beauvillier. I think Tyler Johnson slotted on that third line, either with Lars Eller or Kevin Hayes, adds credibility to the lineup. Badly needed credibility to the bottom six. And if Rickard Rakell goes in the tank like he did at the beginning of last season, or Brian Rust gets hurt, or any number of things that could happen to the six, Johnson can slot in. So that's where I'm going with Tyler Johnson. He skates well. He fits the Penguins. He's not a big guy. He's not a bruiser, but he's zippy. He would fit in with everything they're trying to do right now. And he's great with young guys. He was revered in that room in Chicago last year. Mike Hoffman, no. Max Pacioretty, I suppose, at 35, turning 36, if you get him on a real bargain deal, I guess he could add some offense and some depth. Again, it's kind of unfair comparing these players to Beauvillier because, Beauvillier was just a pure bargain signing, a reclamation project. I'd have to watch some video on Pacioretty if I'm being totally honest. Blake Wheeler is kind of done. Silverberg went back home. Certainly no one's going to sign Michael McLeod, nor should anyone. Cogliano took a job in the front office. Ryan Suter signed. Kalen Addison. No, I think Ryan Shea is probably Kalen Addison, maybe a little better defensively than Kalen Addison as a seventh defenseman. Here's another guy that is intriguing. Kyler Yamamoto. Connor McDavid's former line mate. He's all of 5'8", however. He is super talented. I saw him his rookie year, and I was just like, wow, look at this kid. He hasn't put up big numbers yet, but he's kind of a Connor Sherry type where he had a big year, got money, and then the game adjusted and he didn't figure out his place within it. I think he's coming back to it. I would give him a shot. I don't know that he'd be a great line mate for Crosby, but I think he'd be a pretty darn good line mate for Malkin because of what he can do and how he can carry the puck and the little areas he can get to because he's so quick. I like Yamamoto. Clearly, it would not cost more than $1.5 million to bring him in to add some offense and some competition for that third line. That was a 4 or 5 minute answer. Where should Miroshov play next season? The KHL, AHL splitting games? That is a very good question, Lane, because the Penguins signed Philip Larsson out of Sweden. He's coming over with the intent on resuming his professional career. I don't think he signed a contract to come to Wheeling, which means you've got Joel Blomqvist also in Wilkes-Barre. So do they put Miroshov in Wheeling? Yeesh. I know I'd probably go watch him, that's for sure. But he is an AHL talent. Do you put Philip Larsson in Wheeling? Do you throw the puck on the ice and say, okay, boys, figure it out, compete for it in camps? Maybe so. That would be interesting. That's going to be the problem. I think towards the end of last year, Dubas's intentions were to have Blomqvist with Tristan Jarry. There's no question in my mind, based on Dubas's end of season press conference, that's where they were headed. Listen, I was the guy who asked the question, hey, what about Ned? What about Blomqvist? And he was pretty forthright, I thought. Then Blomqvist went and failed his final. It's like acing the course. You turn in your final paper and it's chicken scratch. That's kind of what happened to Blomqvist. There are two schools of thought then. One, it's a small sample size. You ignore the playoff games in favor of the regular season. I don't take that school of thought. I take the other school of thought, which was Dubas put the turkey on the table for him, put the pressure on him. You want to see your goalie perform well in a big pressure situation. And Blomqvist didn't. So that's how it happens when you're trying to break in. You have to succeed in those pressure situations to show that you can do it at the next level. And so they re-signed Nedeljkovic. By the way, they paid full boat on Nedeljkovic. They paid full market value. There was no discount there, which tells you that I think you can put some credibility or credence in what I'm telling you about the Blomqvist situation. Yeah, so they've got one too many. We'll see. We will see. Steve, does the intensity and competitiveness of this development camp suggest to you that the Pens have some young guys that will contribute? Having energy on entry-level contracts would really boost the team. Yes. I mean, listen, I don't recall there being a handful of guys with an NHL pedigree in a Penguins rookie camp in a decade. They truly had some guys who expect to be in the NHL. 5 of them: Pickering, Yeager, Howe, Brunick, Bros. Murashov would make 6. Am I missing anybody who can probably make that claim that they expect to be there? That's probably it. There's other guys, though, fighting for that sort of space. Guys like Atlee Calvert and Hayes and, guys who want to at least put a good foot forward to get a good role in Wilkes-Barre. So, yeah, it certainly bodes well. That's for sure. Who disappointed me at the development camp? Man, I hate to do this to the poor kid, but Pickering, I wanted to see more from Pickering. I wanted to see more from Yeager. I thought those two guys should have dominated. They didn't. So, there was also some 7th round picks that showed very well. And I'm trying to, do I have nope. Where is my paper? I have my roster around here somewhere. But recent Daniel Harding Daniel Latch, rather, was going to Wisconsin for one more year. He was really good. Like, he could really break through. So watch Latch at Wisconsin. Harding, also a 7th round pick a year ago. He was stocky and he was good. He's a defenseman. And I saw a lot of professional intangibles about him during the game. He seemed to know where to be. The puck seemed to follow him. He didn't make mistakes. He moved it quickly. He inserted himself in the play. Didn't get beat. I liked a lot of what I saw. Negative pressure. Do I think Dubas's plan is hoping a few of the 1-year contract players have a rebound year? Well, yeah, I think certainly Dubas is hoping that. And depending on how the team overall is doing, trading them away and replacing them with the Utes. The 2 Utes? Yeah, I think that's certainly a realistic possibility. trading away Lars Eller, Nola Chari. Who else? Even listen, if they're out of the playoffs come February, fire sale. Every single one of them. Matt Grzelcyk. I guess that would be just about everybody who's on a 1-year deal, isn't it? Even this, yeah. Come if they're out of the play, if they're 8 points back of the playoffs again, everybody must go, and that's just the way it's going to be. Is DOC going to be Crosby's left wing this season? It's kind of shaping up that way, isn't it? Unless the Penguins bring in somebody else, unless Beauvillier shows up with, his Superman cape, yeah, that's going to be how it goes. Although Beauvillier is more of a right winger, but still, you get what it, yeah. BJ, Dubas, and Pryor said it was a coincidence they drafted as many WHL players. Yeah, they said that. I don't believe them. But knowing their preference for mixing skill with a bit of edge, isn't the WHL the place to find that? Yep. As opposed to, the Quebec Major. There's a bit of a homogenization occurring. But yeah, the Penguins have not dipped into the OHL very much. They've been very much a Quebec and WHL sort of league. And then late rounds, they've been taking a few flyers on the OHL and Finnish guys. I don't think that's coincidence. They're not stereotyping players by saying, well, go find us the best WHL player. But by the same token, when you're spending as much time as they are in the WHL, because they've had a few picks, and then those few picks beget more picks. When you see guys up close, you're like, oh, I found something the other guys aren't seeing. Brian asks, who are your bets to be the 6th and 7th defenseman? Oh, I think that's Ryan Shea. Hell, Ryan Shea might be the 6th defenseman. Let me take a look here. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody that they signed. I feel like there's one player I'm omitting. So Pedersen, Graves, Grzelcyk. Shea is going to be the 7th guy. Probably a pretty safe bet. Don't mean to be critical, just if Crosby wants a competitive team as part of his contract negotiations, I don't see how we deliver. I agree on Washington and Philly slightly passing us. Well, that's true. Because they're not talking, I think we can only project what our feelings might be or what we see onto the players in this little drama. I don't know. I think we all expect Crosby to sign, but it's not unreasonable for him to say, okay, I'm in. I will shepherd these kids, but I'm not going through what Mario went through in 2003 and 4. Not a chance. Most of you probably are too young to remember. You might remember Gen X or the Generation Next or Generation X and all of the things that they were called. They were never called any good, however. The team was terrible for a couple of years running. It was miserable for Mario. And I'm not kidding. They actually had to bring in veterans who weren't any good just so Mario had some play dates, had some people to hang around with or communicate with. So when they brought in Mark Bergevin, Mark Recchi, Kevin Stevens, and that crew, it's because they were, there was no team around Mario, and he's looking around the room going, what did I get myself into? It's an honest question. And I think it parallels and mirrors the Crosby situation a little bit, or what could happen down the road in the Crosby situation. I wonder if Mario didn't own the team, would he have allowed himself to be traded? Think about that. There were pretty strong rumors for a minute. I think it was 2004, maybe. Everybody knew they were headed towards a lockout. Everybody knew that was the final season and could have been Mario's last season and all of that sort of thing. There were pretty strong rumors, and I wasn't a reporter back then, that Montreal was trying to convince Mario to facilitate a trade somehow. So I would hate to see Crosby sitting there. And as much as I might have expectations for guys like Yeager and Pickering and Howe and Brunick and Brose and Murashoff and Blomqvist and St. Ivany and Puustinen, 3/4 of those guys could flop hard. 3/4 of them could just absolutely faceplant, be just a body, be a guy that doesn't impact the team, be a guy who kind of makes the NHL because they were supposed to, but doesn't really do a whole lot of good. 3/4 of them could be those guys. And let's just say that happens. Now Sid is sitting there with a room of 4A players. That has to factor in a little bit, doesn't it? He has to think a little bit about, geez, do I want to go through that? If he didn't want to go through that, I sure as heck wouldn't blame him. Okay, BJ, Beauvillier, Sid, Rust, Bunting, Gino, Puustin, and DOC. This lineup isn't playoff caliber, but spreads the little depth. Yeah, kind of. I'd take Cal Clutterbuck, says Sixburg. I would have too a couple of years ago. I think the tread's off that tire at this point. The fact that the Islanders aren't, guaranteeing him a spot to come back probably should tell you everything you need to know about that. Lizotte beside Crosby, because Lizotte goes to the dirty areas? Yes, but by that same logic, Achari could have done the same thing last year. Yeah, actually, there's a whole art to creating offense, to participating in the offense. And let's just say that guys like Lizotte and Achari, they're NHL players who have a role. Playing beside Sidney Crosby is not one of those roles. Oh, Steve asked Puljujärvi. The Edmonton guys asked me about him this morning, too. Seems he is totally on the outside looking in, since Howe seems the most NHL compatible. A lot of folks getting moved out. Yeah, I honestly, Puljujärvi has the talent, the tools, the skills to be a special player. Full stop. He truly could be a wow kind of player. He could be a dominant power forward in someone's top six. Why he hasn't or won't sort of put it all together, why he doesn't play with that intensity, with any sort of consistency. He's not a young guy anymore. It's been 7-8 years since he was in the draft. And there is always the potential that he wakes up, he sees, a shining, glowing light. The Virgin Mary comes to him and says, play hockey right. Start playing hard every game. And he has this religious epiphany. And he shows up in the fall in the training camp. And he's dominant. He's that good. He could be. Barring the religious miracle. Of course, after the good Lord Almighty doesn't tap Joe Biden on the shoulder, maybe he goes to Puljujärvi instead. I don't know. Yeah. So I think that is the Penguins' situation with him. Do you stash him as the 13th forward, dangling that NHL roster spot or the playing time ahead of him? Do you send him down to Wilkes-Barre? Hope, build up some hate. I don't know, but he is kind of an afterthought, at least in my looking ahead at the team. Brian reminds me of Sebastian Aho, the guy I might be forgetting about. Yeah, I think I think Ryan Shea's better than Sebastian Aho because he can play both sides. Brandon asks, does St. Ivany not exist anymore? No, he's your third pairing right defenseman. It's the left side that is the problem. Please share my thoughts on this year's second rounders. Okay, well, we talked about now Tanner Howe a good bit, right? So let's talk about Harrison Brunick or Brunicki. I forgot to ask him how it's pronounced. Shocked me. He really did. He is just a smart, quiet defenseman. He gets to where he needs to go. He moves the puck to where he needs it. And that's it. No fuss, no muss. Incredibly quiet game. And in this case, that is a compliment. His skating was what stood out. And I'm talking a little bit out of school. I hope I don't offend him by mentioning his name. But I was watching him with Paul Staggerwall. We were commenting on how he skated. He was able to accelerate and decelerate and move laterally and, north and south very quickly with zero snow. It was, he really knows how to use his edges quietly. It's almost like a flying saucer. He's here and he's there. He's here, he's there. He just gets what he needs to get done. I liked him very much. I don't know that he was the 44th overall pick, but listen, if he makes the NHL and is a quiet second pairing defenseman, you call it a good pick. I would have gone after one of the more dynamic offensive talents like Teddy Stiga but the Penguins did, the Penguins had a plan. He's a right-handed defenseman too, which makes him infinitely more valuable. Almost spilled my stuff. Being a righty makes him a lot more valuable. Let's see here. With Wilkes-Barre having talent for the first time in a while, what constitutes success? I don't know. I think what every team wants for their American Hockey League team is as many playoff games as possible. That's when you're playing against some NHL talent. That's when there's pressure. That's when you really find out what a guy's got. The American Hockey League schedule is kind of garbage. Not because of the competitive level, but like when I covered a couple of games back in January, Charlotte showed up for the game. They were there in body, but not in spirit, because they had a long bus ride to get there. I think St. Ivany is the guy who told me they had their bus legs, so we had to take advantage of them. That stuff happens in the AHL. Or if you play like 3 and 3 games in 3 days, or 3 games in 4 days, a lot. And, guys are just beat up. You're not traveling with the same charter airplanes and plush hotels and team meals that are dedicated to maximum production. Sometimes in the minors, you just drop some of your per diem on a little personal pizza at the airport or, at a rest stop. Just the way it works. So, but in the playoffs, it's a different situation. You're traveling back and forth with this, if it's a tough travel schedule, both teams are doing it. And the pressure, so teams like when their guys are in the playoffs. I think that's the goal, is to have a playoff run. Shane, how much did Sid have in getting Gino re-signed? That has taken on a life of its own amongst fans. Yes, Sidney Crosby said, I endorse it. Sid said, I think Sid, from what I heard, I can't confirm this firsthand reporting. I'm not close to Sid, as evidenced by our little Edmonton scrum, or Malkin. Is, I think Crosby kind of calmed down Malkin so that a contract could be done. But, ultimately that was Hextall. That was Hextall and Burke and FSG making that decision. Because if they don't want it signed, it doesn't get signed. Period. They were not, I mean, they went to what, June 30th? 29th? Before they signed Malkin. That decision had been made. And I don't see Sidney Crosby going to management and saying, if he goes, I go. I don't see that. I don't see that happening quite, like slap shot. Did they make a mistake? Well, sure. I get tired of rehashing this, though. It was 2 years ago. Sure, it was a mistake. The biggest mistake was not re-signing Evgeny Malkin. He has produced. He's played every game for the last couple of years. The problem is that it's a 35-plus contract, which means for the next 2 years, the Penguins are on the hook for 100% against their salary cap. And if I'm being truly honest, I don't know that Evgeny Malkin truly has 2 years left. So that's the problem, right? The other problem, obviously, is if the Penguins wanted to rebuild, those 4 or 5 players could stop them. Let's just say Dubas woke up tomorrow, FSG calls down, LeBron James goes into the offices, he and John Henry are having a little powwow with little espressos, and they're talking about the Penguins, and LeBron says, Pittsburgh's going to be a lot of trouble, kind of like, the Lakers are going to stink with my kid and my little buddy coaching. You need to do something there. So John Henry calls Kyle Dubas and says, you can blow it up. I think you need to blow it up. Business-wise, we need to blow it up. Dubas couldn't. That's the problem. That's the biggest problem with those contracts, where the 35-plus, no movement, it really put the Penguins in a bad spot. And that's all I'm going to say about them. I don't want to go. I hate rehashing it. Shout out to Sergey, guys. Disgusting. Yeah, I didn't actually hear Owen say that. I was standing there. I thought he said something else. So I quoted him differently than saying disgusting. Ticks me off that I missed it. They still could have signed Trocheck even while re-signing Malkin. Okay, yeah, we're moving past that. What are my thoughts on Sergei Miroshov? Come on, Zachary. We spent 10 minutes on that at the beginning of the show. Come on, man. Filthy, disgusting, NHL talent. Next Russian goalie on the way. He was really good. There. If you want any more on Miroshov, you're going to have to read Pittsburgh Hockey Now. All right, here, let me post the link for you, and I hope you'll join PHN Plus, get the ad-free experience, also all the exclusive subscriber content. Here, I'm going to reply to... Oh. There. Okay, Zachary, it's in the comments. Go ahead and read that. I did a deep dive on Miroshov. Pretend Dubas got fired at the same time as Jim Rutherford quit. Then the Penguins hired Dubas instead of Hextall. Oh, good Lord. That's a hypothetical. I'll let you guys on the bar stools take care of that hypothetical. Let's see here. Is this talent pool looks worse or better than 2015 class? Rust and Jake, and boy, that's tough. Because it's too easy to look back and be smart and say, I saw it coming. Don't forget, Brian Rust was a part-time fourth liner for a couple of years, in fact. I used to call him the bottle rocket because he was really good defensively. He would create a play in the defensive zone, loose puck, be fast enough. He would just take that puck. He would, be the first on it and streak up the ice. He would get to about the top of the circle, shoot it on the goalie, who would make an easy save, hold on to it, and get a whistle. It was like clockwork. So I called Brian Rust the Bottle Rocket. It wasn't until a few years ago that he began to actually play with the puck and push himself, his offensive skills, and all of that. So it's too easy to look back. I think we look back, Scott Wilson was the guy that everybody sort of expected more from. Tom Kuhnackel sort of busted through. And the Penguins kept saying to Kuhnackel, dude, you have more to give. You can be an offensive player in this league. And Kuhnackel was just kind of comfortable being a fourth liner. I think that was a mistake on his part because, he got kind of bounced out of the league a few years later, right? Last I saw, he was playing overseas. The Islanders gave him kind of a half-hearted look, and he played some games for the Islanders over the course of a couple of years, and then it was off to Europe. Let's see here. Shea has a leg up to be the 6th, 7th defenseman. Yeah. Okay. Kingersky 2024. I am far too young to be president. I still have my faculties about me. And clearly this is all the hair I have left, and I'm not hiding that fact. So I am neither qualified. Actually, who are we kidding? I probably am qualified compared to the schlubs who've been trying for the job for the last 10 or 12 years. Isn't that scary? And I don't care which political party you're a part of. I'm making fun of both of them. Do I think Yeager gets some games this year? It's a good question, Zach. Here's the thing about Yeager. They want him to succeed. He's got the tools and the talent to succeed. He's going to have to have a good camp, though. He's going to have to get over this defensive posture that he assumed kind of in the Memorial Cup. I can't speak to the WHL playoffs as much, but he was doing it even in the scrimmage yesterday. They were playing 4-on-4. He was kind of functioning as a third defenseman, oftentimes kind of staying very high. Even after the other defenseman would cycle back, Yeager would be too soft at the top of the zone. He needed to be between the dots, not at the blue line. And that's a mental block for him. He's going to have to get over and get around. He's going to have to be more aggressive, more assertive, more confident. I don't know that this is the year. Could he play or stick around for 9 games? I think they would love to do that, actually. I think they would love to have him stick around for 9 games. I do think the guy that's going to supplant him, though, if there's a guy who's going to get a look for the NHL, Tanner Howe would be my guy. I truly think Howe could play in the NHL this coming year. I mean, I might change my opinion when I see him against the NHL players in training camp and preseason. But an edgy, greasy little winger, not afraid to go to the net, put some pucks there, agitate opponents. And if he has any idea what he's doing in the defensive zone, any clue what he's doing back there, maybe he gets a 9-game tryout, or maybe he gets a sweater, quite frankly. Do I see them straddling the fence? Hey, Drizzy, do I see them straddling the fence until the until the trade deadline? Y'all can't use these acronyms and little initials. Do I see them straddling the fence until the trade deadline? Then, based on results, make more dumps? Yes, I think that's a foregone conclusion if they are not in a playoff spot. Or, you know what? Listen, Philadelphia traded Sean Walker at the trade deadline last year, and they were in third place. Don't forget what Daniel Briere said. He's like, we can't lose sight of the rebuild. He got a first-round pick for Sean Walker. If the Penguins are even in a playoff spot and they haven't re-signed Marcus Pettersson, that's one to watch out for. Could they snag someone's first-round pick for Marcus Pettersson? Yes, actually. Very much so. Would you trade Drew O'Connor? No. I think you hold on to O'Connor for this reason. O'Connor's contract value compared to his value to the team is still team-friendly. And I think it will remain such unless he breaks out with like a 25-goal season. Then all bets are off. Trade Eller? Yeah, I think Eller is almost a goner because Kevin Hayes is signed for 2 years. And Noel Acciari, I also think Acciari is kind of a goner because of Blake Lizotte. Yeah, I think Pettersson, Eller, Acciari, those three guys, you're going to bring in at least 3 draft picks of third round or better. And if you package, who did Colorado? Was it Colorado? St. Louis, rather. Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari to Toronto. Got a first and second pick out of the deal and more. So, yeah, maybe you package Pettersson and Acciari or Pettersson and Eller for a good team that's maybe a little defensively suspect, and you get their first-round pick. Possible. That's the kind of stuff that, in fact, that was what Dubas did. In Toronto, Dubas gave up more for the package of O'Reilly and Acciari. My coffee got cold. Yuck. I will tell you, I do my shopping at Dollar General because I can walk there. They have a toasted coconut coffee Keurig thing. It is really good. I mean, I don't like coconut. It's not the taste, it's the consistency. But I like it. It's even better than the chocolate chip from IHOP. Anyway, I should give away a free subscription if you got that movie reference. It's not the taste, it's the consistency. Legends Hockey. What do you think it would take to get a legit scoring winger like Laine, Zegras, Ehlers? Do we have it? Okay, separate Laine out of that conversation for this reason. One, he's only had, like 20, 22, 25 goals over the last couple of seasons. Okay? 2, he makes $8.7 million. He is not going to command a lot in a trade. Columbus knows this. The initial reaction from Columbus media was they'd have to affix a draft pick to Laine to get rid of him. I tend to think there will be a little bit of a bidding war that will drive the price to at least even, but Columbus won't get more than a mid-round prospect. Maybe. I mean, I think they'd be lucky to get a second rounder for Laine because of that salary. They're going to, if they got a second round pick in return for Laine, there would have to be a salary involved going to Columbus. So we're breaking Laine out of that. If you're talking Ehlers, no, they really can't afford him. Trevor Zegras, pass. He is fan porn, but he's not a favorite amongst general managers. Got it? He scores those cute little Michigan goals, and fans go, look, he's so good. A lot of hockey people have questioned his commitment to the game. They've done so publicly. I'm not breaking any confidences there. But he doesn't have the best rep, quite frankly. And again, I think fans see the offensive totals and assume he's a good player. I wouldn't spend the assets to get him, quite frankly. And they can't afford Nikolai Ehlers. That's going to take a real trade proposal. That's going to take assets like a second round pick or stuff they just don't want to give up. How did I do this? How is that question on the screen? Okay. Oh, I see. I can actually put the question I'm talking about on the screen. Look at a feature I didn't know until just now. I see the numbers are kind of down this week. Yeah, there was no trade talk. So if I did this, cool. Do I think it's better to bring in a Verana type? No, I think at this point you don't bring in a Verana type either. You just sit with what you've got. Keep the space for the guys like Ponomarev. Oh, going back a long time ago. Guys who disappointed me. I thought Koivunen was also disappointing in rookie camp, but he was disappointing to me in Wilkes-Barre's playoff games too. He really is he's going to have a big adjustment to North America. He's trying to slow the game down. He's trying to play slowly, and that just doesn't work on the smaller rinks. Not going to happen. He tries to pull up. He tries to then look for space or look for the pass. Nah, not going to happen. You get your lunch eaten pretty quickly. He had a really good scoring opportunity yesterday. And he kind of stopped. He slowed it down. He dusted the puck. And by then, Murashov was staring at him. Like, okay, come on, go ahead, let it rip. Obviously, it didn't go anywhere. And defenseman had a chance to close in and block the shot. And he needed to just, when that puck was coming to him, snap it. He might have had a chance to score back. I thought he would have. But by catching it, dusting it, literally in that, kind of that full second time, everything changed. Zombieland reference. All right, Brandon, if you're not a subscriber to PHN Plus, I will give you a free PHN Plus subscription. Do me a favor, DM me on Twitter. All right. Or if you have I probably don't. Yeah, just DM me on Twitter. Tell me you're Brandon, and I'll give you a free PHN Plus. I appreciate you, Drizzy. Wake up's like, yep, beat me to it. Snowballs. Okay, so that's over an hour. I will end with Zachary here. I'll put it up on the screen. I think if you are Dubas, I'm not, but you take the chance on Laine. I wholeheartedly agree with that, by the way. You're gonna have to clear some money to get it done. You're gonna have to send probably $4 or $5 million out, whether it's to Columbus or scatter it around the league. That would be Achari and Eller. That would be Eller and, good Lord, Ricard Raquel. I don't think it would be better if they gave up Ricard Raquel for Patrick Laine, though. That's sort of the problem. But yes, I do think getting Patrick Laine would be a very good move for the Penguins. All right, kids, that is an hour 10. Before we do 2 hours, one of these days we are going to do just a full 3-hour show. I'm going to block off my whole afternoon. We're going to dedicate it to you guys, and we're just going to roll. So that is the deal. Zachary says, I highly doubt Columbus would take Ryan Graves. I don't know. That's actually the kind of deal that makes sense, believe it or not. Ryan Graves and a real asset. You have to think about that. And I wonder if the Columbus boys and girls, if they were correct that Columbus accepted they had to affix an asset, would they take on Ryan Graves, assuming they can resurrect him with just one bad year? That'd be interesting. That'd be really, really interesting. Okay. All right, I'll answer one more. Okay, Daniel, I appreciate you. Daniel Lino. I commented this on Twitter. Do I think Valtteri Puustinen is able to make that jump to be a full-time NHL player this upcoming season? I don't know. Here is the one thing that Puustinen lacks, or has lacked to this point. That consistency of maximum effort. Now I'm quoting Deadpool. He can get too soft, too invisible, too quickly. Sullivan would kind of put the boots to him, and he would have a couple or a few good games and then recede. Good games and recede. Good game, recede. Good shift, recede. That is the problem of every young player. The problem with Puustinen, and the reason I'm being hesitant, is that Puustinen is no longer in his early 20s. He's now in his mid-20s. He should, by now, have the maturity to bring it to work every single day. Bring your lunch pail. It can even be a Beavis and Butthead, like you see over my shoulder there. Bring your Beavis and Butthead lunchbox and get to work. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself eating at Outback in Wilkes-Barre. So there you go. Kids, it's always a pleasure. I appreciate you very much. Like, subscribe, share, follow, and I will see you again. Actually, I'm going to keep doing these in the summer. As long as you keep showing up, I guess I'll keep doing these. And nobody complained about the sound, so I guess it was one of the two cables that I replaced. Ha ha, cool. Have fun. Talk soon.